Tonight, Hurricane Milton tears a path of destruction across Florida.
It moved quickly, producing significant flooding and damaging winds near its path.
An update on the damage and the remaining storm-related danger. Plus, inflation in America. What today's newest Labor Department numbers mean for your bank account. And with the Middle East still on edge, importing into Israel a potential issue.
We produce less than 10% of what we consume.
How Israeli farmers are fighting for the future of their food supply. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Hurricane Milton has come and gone. Tonight, a fuller picture of the storm's wrath coming into focus. Good evening from the CBN studio in our Washington News Bureau. I'm John Jessup. Jenna Bratter has the night off. Well, Milton is churning in the Atlantic after making landfall as a powerful Category 3 hurricane near Sarasota, Florida overnight. Many in the battered region lost property. Millions more are without power, while the desperate search for survivors is underway. The widespread damage left in the wake of Hurricane Milton caused by scenes like these. Winds exceeding 100 miles an hour, whipping up as much as 18 inches of rain, and a storm surge between 8 to 10 feet high.
The house vibrated when the gusts really picked up.
Most residents followed evacuation orders, fearing what was called a once-in-a-century storm. For those who stayed in their homes, the rescue effort started early this morning. Crews wading through sometimes chest-high waters to aid survivors. Officials now telling people to stay indoors due to downed power lines and trees and debris blocking roads and bridges. The fiberglass dome at the home of the Tampa Bay Rays now in tatters, transforming Tropicana Field to an open-air arena.
This is bad. I've never seen, for all 37 years being in Tampa, I've never seen like this something.
Still, state and local officials say the storm's late southward shifts spared Floridians from what could have been much worse.
Storm surge, as initially reported, has not been as significant overall as what was observed for Hurricane Helene.
The president also pledging federal support.
Despite the misinformation and lies, the truth is we're providing the resources needed to rescue, recover, and rebuild.
Utilities are rushing to restore critical services to more than 3 million people without power, while survivors are grateful to be alive and for the things most of us take for granted.
But I'm just glad we're out and to safety and to where we can charge up our phones because I don't have any power because of my family is probably wondering where I'm at. So
relief groups like Operation Blessing, with teams already in North Carolina and Georgia in the wake of Hurricane Helene, are gearing up to assist people in Florida.
As soon as it's safe for our team to proceed, we'll head down right into those impacted areas, begin providing help.
CBN's Operation Blessing is jumping into action to help those hardest hit by Milton as it continues ongoing relief efforts with Helene. To learn more. Well, with the election now just weeks away, the race for the White House is virtually a toss-up. A Quinnipiac University poll shows former President Trump and Vice President Harris locked in a dead heat battle in key swing states. In Pennsylvania, Harris leads Trump 49 to 46% among likely voters, while Michigan voters prefer Trump 50 to 46%. In Wisconsin, the former president again has a narrow lead, just by 2 points, 48% to 46%. The results signal potential trouble for Democrats as Harris's lead appears to be shrinking in key battlegrounds. Last month, she was ahead in Pennsylvania and Michigan, with the race essentially tied in Wisconsin. With the final countdown nearing, both candidates are hitting the campaign trail in swing states in full force. Well, as the candidates make the final appeal to Americans, voters and world leaders alike want to know how both presidential hopefuls will approach the delicate situation unfolding in the Middle East. As CBN chief political analyst David Brody reports, most attention is focused on Israel and Iran.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are polar opposites in many ways, although it appears they agree on which country poses the greatest threat.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands. Okay.
And that's likely where the common ground will end. In dealing with Iran, a Harris administration would be expected to follow the path of President Biden. Critics say that means easing up on sanctions and supporting an updated nuclear deal, something Trump abruptly exited as president.
Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had.
Brent Sadler is with the Heritage Foundation.
Kamala Harris and the Biden-Harris White House the last 3.5, almost 4 years, their approach has been, if they can get a deal with Iran, everything else is possible. Trump, on the other hand, is from a position of strength, then meaningful negotiations are possible.
As for Israel, Trump has been clear that a two-state solution is not possible. Harris, however, has stated she will push for it around the clock. On continued U.S. support for the Jewish state, Trump says he would not put any condition on aid. Harris hasn't committed to that. And during her time as VP, the administration temporarily stopped some ammunition shipments to Israel.
The best predictor of what's going to happen is what somebody has done already.
Former career diplomat Bart McCoys says any question of funding Israel is a major issue.
She will strangle Israel. She'll have a policy of complete strangulation. They will have to develop allies outside the United States and sources for weapons outside the United States.
Then there is Gaza. Trump hasn't committed to exactly what help might be in store for the Palestinians, but as president, he cut hundreds of millions of dollars in aid intended for both the West Bank and Gaza. Harris, however, has a different view.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
The ideology of this is that I think they, in their hearts, feel that Israel is the aggressor, the oppressor in this case, and that is the Palestinian cause that stands on higher moral ground. And that actually colors a lot of their policy decisions, and many of that are made outside of public vision, inside the White House and across the administration.
The candidates' Middle East policies will be one part of the jigsaw puzzle that voters will have to solve come Election Day. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
All right, thank you, David. Well, the DNC is rolling out a new bilingual campaign today in Arizona aimed at winning over Hispanic voters. It's launching the same day Vice President Harris is in neighboring Nevada for a televised town hall with the Spanish language network Univision. The town hall features an audience comprised of undecided Latino voters who'll be able to directly question the Democratic nominee about her planned policies if elected. Donald Trump had planned to participate in a similar town hall in Miami Tuesday. It was rescheduled to next week due to Hurricane Milton. Well, joining me now is Julia Manchester, national politics reporter with The Hill. Julia, welcome to you. So, according to Pew Research, Latinos account for about 15% of the overall electorate. That's a larger voting bloc than African Americans. Julia, how crucial is it for the nominees to win over the support of Hispanic voters?
Hey, John, I would say it's very crucial, especially when you're looking at states like Arizona and Nevada. And if you're running for Senate, for example, Florida is seen as getting tighter at the Senate level and also a bit at the presidential level, though I would prioritize Nevada and Arizona over Florida. Look, I think it's interesting that we are seeing these outreach efforts really launching now. We're not only seeing this Univision town hall with Harris tonight in out west, but you're also seeing former President Trump going and campaigning in Coachella. That's out in obviously California in the 25th congressional district. It's usually not competitive for Republicans. It's seen as a pretty strongly Democratic area, but a clear strategy for Donald Trump to really reach some Latino and Hispanic voters out there. But one caution I would add is that, Hispanic and Latino voters are not a monolith. We have seen that they vote very differently depending on what their country, where their country of origin, where they come from, their communities, etc. So we can definitely expect to see, maybe some breaking off from various members of the community.
Julia, along those lines, we see that split represented in a USA Today poll that shows Latino men under 50 tend to support Trump, while Latino women tend to favor Harris. What do you think accounts for that, and how can both of the nominees broaden their appeal?
So overall, we are seeing Trump just in general, among all male voters, he tends to do better, whereas Harris tends to do better among female voters. So that doesn't particularly surprise me. But, I do wonder if there are some issues impacting women like, access to abortion, for example, reproductive health care issues that are playing in this, and that you're seeing maybe some Latina women or Hispanic women seeing and sort of more so connecting with Harris on that level. We've seen that is a big issue for Latino and Hispanic, even if they're on the right or left side of the issue. But, I would have to look closer at those crosstabs to see, how they're polling with other issues, how they feel about cost of living, foreign policy, et cetera.
Julia, earlier this week, you wrote a piece for The Hill that really looked at Trump's shifting abortion stance, which raised questions for his evangelical support. Why do you think this could be a big deal for the Trump campaign in the minute or so we have left?
Well, it's interesting. I actually chatted with CBN's David Brody for this piece. And, essentially, look, for the white conservative evangelical vote, Donald Trump is likely to win a majority of that vote. The question is, how much does he win that vote by? If Harris, and we've seen some evangelical efforts surrounding Harris, if she's even able to peel off maybe 10% of what Donald Trump won last time, even less than that, that could make a big difference in the final election results.
All right, Julia Manchester, political reporter with The Hill, thank you so much, and good luck in the Chicago Marathon.
Thank you. I appreciate that, John.
Well, from inflation to unemployment, Faith Nation dives deep into the economy right after this. Welcome back. Although inflation has hit the lowest point since February of 2021, new data from the Labor Department today shows September prices cooled slower than predicted. Last month's Consumer Price Index reports inflation rose 2.4% compared to a year ago. That is 0.1% higher than most economists expected. Food and housing costs accounted for a majority of the rise. Today's CPI was the last before the November presidential election, where improving the economy has been a leading talking point in the 2024 presidential election cycle. Well, joining me now is Ted Rossman, the senior industry analyst over at Bankrate. Ted, welcome to you. So today's inflation report came in slightly above expectations. Do you think this means that the Fed will move less aggressively when it comes to cutting rates out of fear that inflation is still a little too high?
It still seems likely that the Fed's going to follow through with its rate cutting plans at the November meeting and probably December as well. At the last meeting, they hinted that they would likely implement a quarter-point cut at both meetings. And that does seem that we'll probably still see that. The crystal ball gets a little cloudy the further out we go, but I would say the Fed's median estimate of a full point of cuts next year seems like it could remain on track as well. The general trajectory is still for inflation to come down and interest rates to follow suit.
Well, even though inflation has come down to the lowest point since February 2021, most Americans feel like inflation is still too high, pointing to the price of things like groceries. Ted, any idea how long until these prices begin to stabilize?
That's one of the key issues in the economy right now, is this disconnect between perception and reality, because really both are true. Inflation is coming down, but it's still stressing people out. And one of the main reasons why is that a lot of consumers hear lower inflation and they think that means we're rolling the clock back to where prices were in, say, 2019 before the pandemic. Unfortunately, lower inflation really just means that prices are still growing, they're just growing more slowly. And a lot of the damage has been done, that cumulative effect of a few years now of higher prices for housing and for groceries and gas and so many other things. True deflation, prices coming down, is seen as a bad thing for economists. It would discourage consumption. It would be bad for our wages. One silver lining is that wage growth has been outpacing inflation for more than a year now. We need to see more of that to get on the right side of this.
Well, the jobless claims were higher than expected today as well. Do you think this is a blip, or is it possibly a sign of concern?
This is likely a blip for two reasons. The biggest would be Hurricane Helene, which led to a lot of disruptions throughout the Southeast. There's also that ongoing Boeing strike of 33,000 workers. Those seem like temporary disruptions. Now, there's no doubt that the job market has weakened over the past 6 to 12 months, and we've seen the unemployment rate go up from 3.4% to 4.1%. We also got a really blockbuster jobs report last week. So September hiring was a lot better than expected. There are some conflicting signals here. In general, though, while the job market's not quite as strong as it was earlier this year, the Fed does still seem mostly comfortable with the current state of affairs. This is close to full employment. They just don't want it to get much worse. The reason they're starting to cut interest rates is they don't want to see that unemployment rate continue to go up into the mid to upper fours.
Ted, just about a half minute left, if you can, in a sentence or two. When the Fed finally does cut rates, whether it's November or later, what will the effect be on ordinary Americans?
We've already seen a big drop in mortgage rates. Much of that's already been priced in. We're going to see slow progress on things like credit cards, but the average rate is still over 20%. That's going to be slow going to bring that down meaningfully.
All right. Bank Rate's Ted Rossman, thank you so much for your time and analysis tonight.
No problem. Thanks.
A year after Hamas attacked Israel, a new generation is working to regenerate the nation's agriculture to ensure the survival of Israel's food supply. That story and more right after this. Israel is waging a war on two fronts tonight, Gaza in the south and Lebanon to the north. The IDF said Thursday it struck terrorists operating in a Gaza school sheltering displaced Palestinians. Hamas-run health officials say dozens were killed in the blast. This happening as the United Nations accuses Israel of open firing on UN peacekeeping forces in Lebanon. Israel did not comment on the allegations, but says it found evidence of Hezbollah planning to raid Israeli towns in an October 7th style attack. Well, a year of war
is a terror base. This is a Lebanese village, a Shia village, built by Hezbollah. Every house has gear, ready for the raid against Israel, conquer the Galilee Plain.
Meanwhile, Israel arrested 5 Israeli Arabs over an alleged plot to bomb a mall in Tel Aviv. The suspects are accused of being linked to the Islamic State. Well, a year of war is taking its toll not only on the people of Israel, but also their food production, with farms under constant rocket fire and workers leaving the growing field for the battlefield. As CBN's Julie Stahl reports from Israel, the impact on local food supplies poses a threat to the nation's survival.
Since the October 7th attack, almost 90% of Israel's farmers have reported significant damage to land, equipment, and livestock. As for servicing the fields, most foreign workers have fled, and many farmers are serving as reservists, with others included in the 80,000 evacuated from growing hostility in the north.
First of all, the agriculture in Israel is in danger because most of the fields are on the borders.
This threat resulted in a rapidly convened conference on Israel's food security that included agriculture experts such as Dr. Liron Amdur and Yoel Zilberman of Hashomer HaChadash, an organization focused on preserving the land and helping farmers. Zilberman tells CBN News the war has highlighted the vulnerability of the food supply because so much is imported.
We know that there is one port that got closed because of the Houthis nearby, like in the Red Sea, nearby Eilat, and the danger on our ports is, like the risk is very, very high in Haifa and Ashdod.
He also added declining food production as a critical threat.
Today we are dependent on Ukraine. Today we are dependent on Turkey. Today we are dependent on Jordan. It's unbelievable.
Amdur revealed that on the Global Food Security Index, Israel received a 0 in commitment to food security policy and food accessibility.
About 80% of our calories come from imported food, and especially cereal, which is the basics for what we eat, but also for what the livestock eats, okay? So if we don't have cereals, then we don't have milk, we don't have meat, we don't have eggs, okay? And we hardly produce any in Israel. We produce less than 10% of what we consume.
Agriculture industry had lost like 10,000 farmers in the last 20 years.
Zilberman blames that on the collapse of agricultural collectives known as kibbutzim, combined with the nation's focus on technology and startups. Amdur hopes that given these exposed threats, Israel might see this as a turning point leading to transformation.
First of all, food security became an issue. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, I think about a month ago, they changed their name to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, because there was no government agency to deal with food security in Israel.
Amdur has worked with members of Hashomer HaChadash on a strategy to regenerate agriculture by building on the organization's achievements of the last 17 years.
We actually built the biggest volunteer organization in Israel. Today we have more than 250,000 volunteers that came to help the farmers. We built like a one-stop shop for a farmer in Israel.
They have boarding schools for children that work in the morning for 4 hours on farms, on actual farms, commercial farms, and then they go and study and finish their high school diploma.
And the idea is that these young people will be the future farmers of Israel, including with a youth movement with more than 20,000 kids from all around Israel, including Bedouin kids that wanted to join to our youth movement. They said, we want to be part of the story of Israel.
Daniel Chisen has spent his final school year with Hashomer before entering the IDF.
After the army, I would love to be a part of farm work, working on the land. I feel that there's a deeper meaning, an existential meaning. It's tied to our identity and who we are as Israelis.
In looking further into the future, Zilberman moved the focus to technology as a key in sustaining the country.
Bringing in technology and bringing in all the new innovations of AI. I think that in many, many ways this will build the future in Israel, and we need to do a very, very fast move to make sure that Israel will be food independence.
Julie Stahl, CBN News.
Julie, still ahead, a very big popularity contest in Alaska. We explain next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, the results from Alaska's annual Fat Bear Contest are in. A 20-year-old mother bear named Grazer was crowned winner at Katmai National Park. Fans around the world bear, get it, the responsibility of choosing the bulkiest from a group of 12 bears, casting votes online for the chunkiest competitor who appears to be best prepared for hibernation. This is Grazer's second consecutive claim to the title after winning also the contest last year. Congratulations to Grazer. I would not want to be caught in a field with that bear by myself. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.